Oh, hello, everyone. I was kind of just joking with the Bellatro. Although it seems like a fun thing to do before the stream actually starts when people are funneling in, you know? I don't know. Maybe it'll be a thing. That's that. That's that. On CodePen. Gotta get the size to kick in. It's been doing that thing, isn't it? Where it... Zoom to app windows. Heck yeah. But smaller. Zoomier. Zoomier. Hell yeah. I'm going to make a pen for this just because it's a good place to store notes and think about whatever. But it doesn't need to be. I mean, we could start with that. I mean, you know, I don't know. I feel like I'm starting in the middle of nothing, but let's go. Let's talk to each other here. I'm talking about a CSS file that you would apply to starting a project, possibly to an existing project, but I probably generally don't recommend that. But a bunch of CSS that you find yourself writing a lot, that it just has a bunch of opinions baked into it that you like, so you just roll like that. Yeah, it's just helpful to you. And there's other reasons to do it, which we can get into. I mean, a classic one in my comeuppance was the Eric Meyer CSS reset. It's like the most famous reset ever. I don't even think it's barely recommended anymore. I don't even know what Eric has to say about it, but it's like old school. And we can certainly do better. Certainly my opinions would be different from it now. But here's the idea is like, look at this. It just selects an absolute ton of HTML elements and says they should have no margin, no padding, no border, you know, all this stuff. Wipe out existing styles. But notably, it's not very much. I think that's interesting. If you found a more modern reset these days, it'd probably have a lot more stuff in it. Yeah, I think at the time in previous versions, perhaps maybe we should look at that. Yeah, that there was like a time when it reset hover styles somehow, although I don't see that happening in here anywhere. Or not hover styles, but focus styles. I think that was an issue with it perhaps. But I don't remember. Maybe Eric wiped that off the internet because he felt weird about it or something. But it's like, do we want to do this? Does this match our modern sentiment and stuff? Maybe some of this stuff is of use to us in some way. Look at border collapse. Collapse is interesting. Would we put that in a modern one? Maybe. So I thought this might be a whole journey. I mean, maybe it won't be our whole week, but maybe if I made, and I'm willing to take opinions from chat as well, but I mostly want to make it fit my sentiments and then write it all down. Like be clear about why I am choosing the things that I am choosing to put into the reset. So the pen would be like, you know, my name. Sorry to be vain, but you know, I guess it's clear. Like I just want it to be clear that it would be my opinions, you know. Cool. So here's the CSS that CodePen gives you right now. Obviously I had some thoughts and opinions on that as well. Would I put this stuff in there? Maybe I would. I think we are going to change this. I think this is a little bit implied. This background canvas and color, like when you switch color theme, I think you sort of get that anyway. So I don't know that I'd put that in there, especially because if I'm doing this, wiping away, this is fascinating. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to hem and haw about every single thing, but I think that's kind of going to be the point of the stream is like, would I put that in a reset? Color scheme, light, dark. Now that's the thing that it's going to change scroll bar colors and radio buttons and stuff when it flips to the mode, but you have to kind of opt into that, you know, like, I guess we could do that real quick. We probably will end up with a bit of a kitchen sink HTML in here. In fact, I opened up an old pen of mine that has a bunch of kitchen sinky kind of stuff in it. Maybe should we just do that? I'll just do that right away. I don't know if I love the look of this. It doesn't, for example, it doesn't like look like a blog post. And sometimes I think you're better off looking at kind of reality. Where's the closing main tag? I saw an opening main tag. Where's the closing main tag? Find main. Oh, there it is. End kitchen sink. Okay. We'll steal this for now because it's a decent starting spot for us. And I'll put that in the main instead. And it's going to give us a whole bunch of crap here. Fine. Now, if I were to switch the mode in, can I do it in Chrome? Believe it or not, I spent so long on Arc where it was really easy to change. I kind of forget how you do it from Chrome. Can you do it from Chrome? Isn't there a bar? Light mode? If I switch to light theme, it just means the DevTools itself. Can I emulate dark mode? Isn't there some kind of emulation or something in these menus for emulating dark mode? Emulate dark mode, Chrome DevTools. The rendering tab. Rendering. Do I have it open? No, don't need that. Don't need what's new. Need rendering. Capuche. Render. Enable automatic dark mode. Oh yeah, there we go. Hey, it is. So that little line, you see what's happening there? That's nice. That little line where I was setting the background and the canvas color, not necessary. But now that it's in dark mode, which is allowed by this color scheme, I think if there's some inputs and stuff in here, we'll see it more strongly. Like those inputs went dark, right? Burp, 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 burp. If we didn't have this, they wouldn't do that. The reason I would avoid putting it in a, I think so anyway, let's look. Yeah, it doesn't, ooh, it is doing that though. Why? Is the CSS in here has no, like this HTML element does not have color schemes on it? Oh, look at it. It does change a little bit. It changes the placeholder color. Do you see how subtle that is? Oh, well, that has convinced me anyway. Apparently you don't need color scheme dark for inputs and stuff to go dark in dark mode. And if you don't need it, why put it in the reset? It's true for Chrome anyway. I'd be like, I don't know, that's tempting. We should probably be looking across browsers. I wish that Polypane browser would work across all browsers. That would be kind of neat. Well, if we don't need it, I'm not putting it there. We definitely do need this. I find, because this reset is for me, essentially, I find myself on like every pen resetting to some kind of font that isn't Times New Roman or whatever. And I like more line height. Already, I disagree with Eric here, resetting his body height to line height 1 here. I don't like that. I like a much beefier line height. And you know what I do? I know that that's for body text. I find myself wanting to reset it, at least for the bigger style headings, maybe even only just up to H3, maybe, because those tend to be the bigger ones of setting a line height back down to something like that. I know this is super duper dependent on what font is used, but again, it's just a reset for me. I find myself commonly doing it and whatnot. So, okay, that's cool. I definitely want that. I don't think we need the height 100% here. This was just for random centering reasons, that like hello world, putting it in the middle of the page is nice, but I definitely would want the margin wiped off of the body there. Now, would I put back on some spacing for the body? Ooh, I don't know. I hate this. I don't want this. Do I want this style sheet to be like, I apply it to a pen and then you automatically it automatically looks a little bit better? I'd be tempted to do it. I'd be tempting to say at least 1, if not 1.5 RAM or something, push this all away. That is very opinionated. No browser applies that. So this is not a reset anymore. Like, I don't know, we should maybe not call it a reset. Can I type in crossy outy letters? Crossy outy letter generator. like a thing for that, isn't there? Cross out text generator, reset. It's like Unicode characters that, yeah, there we go. But I'll capitalize reset, I guess. Strike them. Those letters I could put here. Or I could call it don't call it a reset. Chris Square's starter. Yeah? Starter. I like it. Okay, that's a better word than reset. And another famous one that came along as the scientist. Hello, thanks for showing up again today. pointed out is normalize is a thing. I'm sure I have that tab open somewhere. Let's look at normalize. Actually, let's look at this tab first. I love the title of this blog post. When was this from? A couple of years ago. 2024 was you're not a CSS dev if you have not made a CSS reset, which I think is just a awesome call out. And who is this from? Mike My, and it has a bunch of stuff in it, and we can opinionatedly steal stuff from it or not, which is cool. Ooh, as you dig into my CodePen template, nice. That's even more interesting to dig into. Obviously, they leaned into custom properties. I didn't even think about custom properties. Would we go there too? And it's layered and everything. Very interesting. We'll see if we go there. But that's kind of the reason for the stream is like, I want to be a CSS dev. I've truly never made my own CSS reset. I've had lots of opinions about them over the years, but I'm not sure that I've ever made my own. So let's start with Mike's and then go through it and then maybe go again later. Firstly, typesetting, because I'm a type snob. Set kerning as a font feature setting. I don't know enough to do that. This would be I'm not going to put it there. I've never needed it, I don't think, in my life up until now. So I'm not just going to go start dropping it into projects. I'd be interested in learning more about it. Maybe that's what we'll make. We'll make a special file for shouldlearnmore.txt, and we'll just put random lines of code and stuff in there that we should learn about. I don't want to dismiss it, but I'm not ready to put it in. I'm not ready to put any of this stuff in mine yet. So we'll copy, and then we'll copy the URL. We got these ones from Mike. Maybe we should make this markdown so we have a little bit of like, I can do that and it'll be a different color, right? Won't it? Header, not barely. I was hoping for that it would look a lot different here in this editor, but it's not really. It doesn't have quite the syntax highlighting scoosh as I was hoping for. So we're just going to go with spacing and not regret the markdown thing. Okay, but box sizing, border box, I know I'm going to have opinions about that right away. And it's going to basically be like this, but we're going to do it the other way, the inheritance way. Box sizing, border box, inheritance. I think it was John Neal convinced me of this years ago, that this is a better way to do it like that. And I'll explain why. Is that, this is the highest level HTML element basically that exists. So it goes everywhere. And then you have the box sizing pull its inheritance from the element that's above it, essentially. I would definitely do 2 colons. Oops, we're not in our CSS file anymore. I don't like the 1 colon thing. It technically has a little bit deeper browser support. We'll close that for now. We'll put this at the top because it's, I don't know. I don't know how to order things now. Like, would we combine that? I guess I want these lines close to each other in the file. I want double colons because single colon was really just for like IE8 and crap. We really don't need to bother with that. And double colon says, I'm a pseudo element, not a pseudo class. And I think it's just reads better. And those old browsers don't matter anymore. So I want to do that, even though surely single colon before and single colon after will probably work forever in browsers. Let's just do the more correct thing. The reason for this, though, is that, like, let's say in your HTML, you have like this form right here or wherever it starts at the top of, you're like, this actually, for whatever reason, the layout I want to do inside of this shouldn't have that box sizing. I want to reset it to box sizing, whatever the default is, padding box or content box or whatever it is. If you do it this way, where you say box sizing border box, that means that, like, even though I reset it on the form itself, wherever the top of the form is, the biggest form in the world, I want to be able to set it here and then have it be reset for all the elements down through the whole form. Like I want to choose a top level element and say the box sizing has now changed for this element to something else. You can't do that with using the star selector here, because we reset it here and then by the time we're at the P, we're already back to box sizing border box. So the inheritance model just makes that easier to deal with. I think that's smart, and I like that. It's just a little bit better, but it's in a freaking starter style sheet, so it might as well be that way. It gives us a little bit more control in that way. But yes, you do have to do it for the pseudo elements. It's tempting to just do that because it's clean. It's just a star, but the star won't get the pseudo elements. So you got to do the pseudo elements too. Just kind of a classic there. All right. It's coming together already. I was really hoping to get to that one. So let's look at more of Mike's stuff. I don't like your spacing. Would I rip away the margin and padding on every single thing? I do kind of sort of like that a little bit. It would mean that we didn't specifically have to do it on the body. It means we get away with, our lists and stuff like that. Suck it off there. But I'm just not sure. I'm not sure I want to go there. So I'll put that in another list. We'll put like a maybe.txt. We'll put this there. And then the note is basically like, not sure if we want to be this heavy-handed. Let me make a folder for notes, and we'll put them in the notes folder. I guess that can be marked down as well, even though it really doesn't matter that much. There. We got Sue joining us again. Hello. Sorry I'm so absolutely random with the times we do, but that's just what we're doing around here. We're making a CSS reset today, and we're going to slowly be adding things to it as we go. Welcome, John. Oops. Yeah, add to broadcast. There we go. John's asking if we should put the reset in a layer. I don't know yet. Maybe. Should we put the whole reset in a layer? I don't know. Maybe. If you don't put it in a layer, somebody using it could put it in a layer. Then they have more control. What would I do, though? Do I want it to be in a layer? Part of the power of layer is that it makes it almost less important immediately. We could just go at layer reset and just wrap this whole thing. And we're giving it very little power. Somebody else, I suppose, could make reset a higher powered layer, but it's certainly less powerful than any styling that is out here. So this would win against any P in here, even though they have the same syntax or something. I don't know. I don't know if I care to. It's already so weakly powered. We're not adding any classes or ID selectors and anything, not yet anyway. So the fact that it's already so weakly powered means like I'm not dying to put it in a layer. But I also kind of like teaching about layers and that they can be kind of useful. So maybe the fact that it is layered is kind of a nice reminder that layer exists and all that stuff. So maybe would be like layers, at layer. Are we going to bother with layers? We could go much deeper with layers. In fact, we saw that right away with the Mike's CodePen template here. He layered his layers, or layered his reset here. And he had a custom set of layers. The custom stuff is empty. There's config with all the variables. And then the resets is here. The resets being in the middle for some reason. I don't know. I guess config is the lowest, makes sense or something. So we could look through that later, but we could do that, but like having essentially sub layers in a reset, I'm not sure that I care to do that. We'll see. Another thing that's related to that is that whole :where thing that will go on the maybe list is like, are we going to use where in there? The point of this is usually to reduce selector strength. Do we care about that? Especially when the selector is just like HTML or P or something. It's already so low. How much do we actually care? Would layers make it not matter anyway? I don't know. I'm a little bit more into, I know They kind of work the same. I mention is because again we saw it in some of Mike's here. He said input is type equals checkbox or type equals radio. That's retaining their specificity value. So it's input with like a class level selector on top of it. Probably where is a little bit more appropriate there because we're layering on this kind of class level selector that's fairly powerful. But more like to me, I just like that you don't have to write input twice. So it's kind of nice. So we'll see. We'll put that as a note. If we do want the syntax here, it's probably better than using is, which doesn't remove specificity strength. So I'd rather use where than is. Now I'm doubting myself. Which one is the one that removes specificity and which one doesn't? I sort of forget offhand, or maybe I just forget because I'm streaming. All right, here's some more. Well, I guess we should look at do we want this? I believe it is a good practice to show the pointer finger on interactive controls. It acts as a bare minimum when designers don't design any hover styles. I don't know. I don't like it, I don't think. I think most people don't. And doing what the browser does natively across most of the web is probably fine. I think hover states and focus states and that type of stuff is more important. And if we want to do something extra special with the cursor, we could do it, but just turning it into a pointer, I don't know. I don't feel that strongly about it. I don't think that's helping all that much, especially when it's kind of against the grain of default. Stay in the box, setting a max inline size. Now that would be a principle that we should have. Maybe that we'll add that as a note. That's a logical property. Principles.md. 1, use logical properties. I think for the most part, like if in the default style sheet, a browser used a margin bottom somewhere or something, but you set margin block end will still override the margin bottom. So as far as a reset or starter is concerned, it's okay to just use the logical properties, I think. So that should be good. Now, images with max inline size of I like that. I think this list is a little suspect. Like, I'm not sure it matters on SVG that much. I think maybe. But SVG would be, I'm like less concerned about that. That when do you have like a full width SVG like that? It seems like rare usage where it would need to be constrained like that. I think we probably want to do some special stuff for SVG usage and we'll handle it there. So in here, we'll do it. But this definitely needs iframe on the list, right? And then do they need to be display block too? Some of these do and some of them don't. We'll put that on do we need a to-do note too? I know that's a lot of files, but I don't want to be too messy here. I want to have specific purposes for these files. To-do.md is like SVG handling, I guess we want. Right. So would we do aspect ratio on any of this? Probably not. Little too generic for aspect ratio. Is there other media elements? Like is audio? I mean, we have video and you want audio too. I don't know. Probably, because then I don't know. Like, why would an audio ever be wider than the container? I guess maybe the default size of audio is like 300 pixels or something, and it's bigger than a really small, really, really, really small screen. So maybe that would matter. You got to have this because then, if we're going to affect the width, essentially, we need to unset the height. So I think that might be enough, although we'll just find out as we go, as we start fleshing out the HTML used and things like that. I guess that's okay. Hey, boundaries. Your button designs don't always involve a border. And that can be a problem for Windows high contrast mode where buttons are supposed to have borders. Setting a border initially, even a transparent one, would be a good practice, but it's easy to forget. It doesn't hurt to have this fallback. But maybe we, instead of putting this in the style sheet, we just have some basic styles for buttons. I think I like that better instead of like forgetting that a button should have a border. So maybe a button should have border, one pick solid transparent. That way all buttons are going to have that at least. And if you do something more specific to the button, you could override the border, but that seems fine. I've also seen situations like this where it's like not class. Like you only do this unless you're going to add a class, and then you're probably getting a class to style it. So it removes any of this default stuff. I don't know. I'll put that in the maybe category as like that. Like, do we want to undo our reset styles when an intention is clear that it's going to be restyled? I don't think I like it right now, but it's kind of a maybe. I get the idea. It's kind of clever. And there may be more specialty circumstances we do that. I think I like that in a style sheet. And the purpose of this is high contrast mode ready. Like even if your style of buttons has no border around it, put a border around it anyway, even if it's transparent, and that will help high contrast mode make it look like a button, which is nice. I think that's appropriate for our reset starter, style sheet. All right, my boy is wicked smooth. I love smooth scrolling, but others should not suffer getting motion sickness for what I love. This last bit of CSS ensures that CSS is smooth scrolling only available to are okay with motion. All right, that's cool. Does he use this on this website? I can show you something, the reason why I probably wouldn't want this in my style sheet. Let's look at the root style sheet. Does it have smooth scrolling on it? It does have some of his reset stuff, I'm noticing. I don't know if I see smooth scrolling on here. Scroll behavior smooth. If we put it on there and then we look for the word forget or something that's in there, or up here, and then we go next. Ooh, it jumps right to it. Even though we have scroll behavior smooth on the HTML element, do you have to put it on the body too? I've seen in the past that it will even find in browser will smooth scroll down to the where you did Command F to find a word on a browser. And I did it a long time ago on CSS Tricks when I was running that, and people hated it. And I always remembered that, and I thought, you can't just put scroll behavior smooth everywhere because it'll affect this. But it looks like maybe they removed that, at least in Chrome. So now it's going to be like if we do window.scroll top of 9,000 or something, it will smooth scroll down, right? Or scroll top equals. How do you scroll down a freaking browser? I thought there was something like that. Document element dot scroll top 9,000. And if we're at the top, will it push us to the bottom? Isn't it freaking scroll top? Whatever. The point is, well, what if we put a link? I just want to, what smooth scrolling is, but now we're on a roll here. So we'll say this footer has a freaking ID on it of bottom. And then we're at the top of the page, but we go to bottom. It smooth scrolls down there. Thank you. And the only reason it's smooth scrolling down there is because we put smooth scrolling on there. Do we like that? Is that something you would just put on every website? Mike thinks so. I'm a little hesitant, but the number one reason I was hesitant is because of the Command F behavior for find in browsers, and now I'm seeing that's not the case. So I'm going to put it in the maybe file, I guess. I think I can see Mike's point, I still don't like, it still feels like pretty specific, like, and you have no control over it. I don't find myself using it that much. It's probably a no, but we'll see. All right, now just to say we did Mike entirely. We don't know if we're doing layers yet. We don't know if we're going to provide a bunch of custom properties or not yet. That seems more like something you'd use open props for rather than a reset, you know? Looked at that. Font inherit on inputs I like. I like this. We might do more than, I don't know. Is that everything? Maybe. Let's see. Let's just put that for now. But I do generally like that. I hate how an input like reverts to some weird font instead of just using the font that's clearly right next to it. This is nice. And just font inherit means you get the family, you get the size, you get the line height, you get everything when you just use font like that. That's nice. This we looked at. SVG fill current color. Little too opinionated, but maybe I'll put that in the SVG handling to do, I guess. We'll make that a maybe, but we'll just put it in there so we don't forget about it. The button thing we talked about, and we talked about this thing. So we're done with Mike. Thanks for the idea for this stream, Mike. We've taken from you what we're going to take, which is not a ton, but we're really coming along here. This already feels like me, which I like. I like it. All right. This is a little bit more old school. This is worth talking about a little bit. The idea with normalize was not, it was like almost like a rejection of the Eric Meyer handling, which is just zero out stuff, like just wipe it away so that when you start adding CSS on top of this, you're starting from scratch. So reset was the right word for it. Normalize was like, no. We're only going to, if there is a disagreement amongst browsers, if they do things differently, this will normalize those differences, but I'm not going to remove anything. So if all browsers H1s had a margin bottom on them and they were all the same across all the browsers, normalize would not touch it, which I think is neat. So we could only aspire to have such a powerful project as normalize, but we can still steal stuff from it. Kind of interesting. An adjusted line height. We already dealt with line height. WebKit size adjust. Now that one's interesting because isn't that there's a whole Killian article on text size adjust. And he strongly thinks that you need it. So we'll get there. I think let's ignore that for now, knowing that we're going to get there. Render the main element consistently in IE. I'm not really worried about IE. We have some sizes. Correct the font size and margin on H1 elements with section and article contents. Within section and article contents. You know what? I think Firefox just shipped a change to that. I don't know. I don't think I want to target my H1s super specific, but I think I get the point is that H1s do something and then an H1 within a section did something else. And I think there was a change in that. Firefox change to H1 default styles. Hopefully that'll bring up a blog post. Default styles for H1 elements are changing. That's kind of interesting. It used to be like this, I think, and now it's not. So H1s will be all the same now, whereas they used to change how big they were within sections. So I like, it's very interesting to me, but it didn't matter to me much before. I don't think it's going to matter much to me now. I think I'd rather set some sizes for H1s generally, which would get us out of this mess. Interesting. I'm going to copy the URL and put it somewhere. Should learn more. Maybe I'll put that there. And I'll also put Mozilla. Isn't there a Firefox heading? There's a heading selector now. It's going to be harder to find. I'm just going to put heading. Heading is a new selector that selects all H1 through H6s, which is cool. I don't know that I'm ready to put it in a style sheet, but like if we decided that would be nice to have, we could at least document it. Okay. Correct box sizing. We're already dealing with that because it's going to come with our set. Height equals 0. Show the overflow on edge and IE. I'm not sure I care about that. Correct box sizing. Why is the height there though? Correct the inheritance. Font scaling. I'm not sure I care about HRs that much. Although I care about HRs in that I do find it pretty common that I restyle my HRs to just look like a line. So we'll put that in the maybe pile, I think, is like HR style, just like a line with ample margin block spacing. That would be something that would feel like me. I do that all the time. I want this HR here to just be a freaking line, not a, can you see if I zoom in and maybe you'll see it even better, is that it has I like HRs, but it has this like beveled quality to it that I don't love. Don't love it. Pre's should have font family monospace. Surely it already does. Look at that. It's his monospace twice. What is that about? It doesn't really say. Doesn't that make you curious? Oh, my face is almost in the way. What does font family monospace mean in a pre tag? It doesn't say. A lot of these other ones say. Or maybe this is pointing downwards. I thought it was pointing upwards, but perhaps not. No, it's pointing downwards. Correct the inheritance and scaling of font size in all browsers. Inheritance and scaling of font size. I've never seen that line of code in my life, despite using normalize before. Correct the odd M font sizing. Yeah, I don't know. I do want some nice styles for pre though. So maybe, maybe is probably like nice styles for pre. And I'll say check normalize because it does have some, but I don't really know if I dig what it's doing. I don't know if I care that much. I mostly just wanted the pre's to look nice. Probably swap out the colors, you know? Felix Gaza, thank you for joining the stream. How about modern normalize from Sindra? Should we check that out? Modern normalize. I want to get there. I want to look at a lot of these. So I'll just put it on the list. Like we'll look at it. I just want to line by line and see how I feel about stuff, you know. For abbreviations, we're not doing we are doing the dotted underlines. That's what I associate with abbreviations, but only abbreviations with the title, apparently. Add the correct text decoration in these browsers. I don't know. I've never seen a big problem with ABBRs. I don't use them enough to care, I don't think. Correct weights for bold. Never seen that be a big problem before. Code, keyboard elements, and sample elements should be monospace. Looks like they're doing the same kind of thing that happens with the pre-element. Correct font size for small. Sure, I use small sometimes, but I'm not aware that is a big problem in my life. This one I probably do want, though. Let's put that on the should learn more section. This is a classic. Let's try it right now. This paragraph is nested inside an article. I'm going to put a sup on it that I might use for a footnote. Sup 1. Does it mess up the line height? Yes. No, it pushed everything down, but it didn't look like it messed up the line height, but it did push stuff down. So if I put this in my style, will it not push down? Like, will I see that paragraph come back up a little bit? Yeah, but look at how tiny looking it is now. I don't like what it did to it. What if we don't do the vertical align part? And why do we need position relative either? So now it's up there. Well, now if I delete all this, will it stay exactly where it is? No. It must be that. I don't think we'll need position relative. Is it the font sizing that's helping us out or the line height? If the line height goes away, does it go up? Yeah, that's what we need. I think that's nice. So this is like sub and sup that do not interfere with what else is going on. I think that's enough for me. Oh, because crucially we didn't do this part. All right, maybe we'll put it all back. All right. So it's looking good there. If we didn't do any of it, what's the problem? It pushes the thing down a little bit, right? Like if this is not, where'd it go? If it's not there, it's going to come up a little bit. When I put it there, it pushes down. And we don't like how it pushes down. So if I paste this, or if I Z this away, I want it to come back up a little bit. Yeah, that's what we want. Hide M dashes when publishing AI content. Like an AI class that does it. There's a thing in CSS, there's no like contains, you can't, you'd have to use that thing we looked at the other day, Friday, whatever day we looked at the the JavaScript syntax for highlight. That's possible with that. You find the M dashes and then colorize them the same as the background somehow. All right, well, I like this. That was a good addition. Let's at least get through normalize, and then I'll point out the other things that we need to look at, because we're starting out old school, but we're doing that kind of on purpose. IE10 don't care about buttons. We're already inheriting the font family and all that. Opt group is interesting though. That's not on our list. Should that be on the list? That's kind of that's why I was wondering, is this the complete list or not? That's going to be a to do. Does this matter? I don't know. Normalize is so old. Why not using LH units for line height? Well, that's pretty self-referential, is it? Does line height even take LH units? It seems like that would be cyclical, wouldn't it? Like it's a unit that refers to itself. Overflow on buttons. That's IE edge stuff that I don't care about. Text transform none on buttons. Remove the inheritance of text transform. I definitely don't care about that. Correct the inability to style clickable links. Oh. No, is that real? WebKit appearance button for buttons. The inability to style clickable types. I'm going to have to put that in the learn more category. It feels like it might be old news. Should learn more. Okay. Remove the inner border. Yeah, this thing has to do with like a focus style thing and removing it. But if we do focus, we'll put that in to do. When doing focus handling, let's use focus visible. Yes. That's what handles that. And then we don't need the inner focus ring crap anymore. Field sets are just not common enough for me to put in a reset, I think. And it's just for Firefox. Not sure how much I care. Legends, though. God, these are notoriously gnarly. Let's worry about that. Let's put that on to-do list as like deal with field set and legend. Just make sure they're okay. I don't think we need to go crazy about it. The progress element, alignment, don't care. Overflowing text areas, IE, don't care. We're already dealing with border box on all elements. Correct the cursor style of increment and decrement buttons in Chrome. The cursor style? Why would height auto affect the cursor style? So that's a number input, right? Do we have a number input in here? Why is there no number? There's number and there's them. So I see that it doesn't affect the cursor. So I guess we could try it. That seems like super duper niche to the point where like, I'm not sure how niche I want to go here. So if we go down to that number input again, does it change the cursor or is that just like old news? No, it doesn't do nothing to the cursor. Do not care. Okay. Search, correct the odd appearance in Chrome and Safari. Does it have an odd appearance? No, I don't want to do that specifically because I like the little X button it puts on search inputs and stuff. If it can be there, it should just be there. But it just feels like old school stuff. Old school stuff that I don't care about that much. Template display none. A bunch of IE10 stuff. So it's a great project. It fixed actual problems across browsers. But for our reset, that's not really my goal. It's to be a little bit more opinionated and do stuff that I do often. So this is where we stole the HTML5 kitchen sink stuff so we can like be applying things to this. This is probably the context I'll use this the most in, is just to have a file. Maybe I'll put it in my global assets here that's really easy to apply to any pen I start or anything like that. But it just feels like CSS that I would probably apply to any project. I don't want to go too niche with it. I want it to be stuff that I actually will use, you know. I'm not even sure I would put anything with H6s in it because I'll never use an H6. I don't care about that. I tend to go to H4 and stop, you know, and that's okay. It doesn't mean never have an H5 or H6. I mean, for me, I'm not going to care about things that are that specific. Now, I'll keep this open for future streams because there's a list of other style sheets in here that we should look around at to see if they do make interesting choices, anything that we would maybe perhaps want to steal. But I am a little bit more interested in the modern stuff. Like Felix pointed out here, this modern normalize that, oh gosh, even that is 8 years ago. It's not that new. There's newer stuff like Josh Komauza one, and there's Andy Bell's one. I'm a little bit more interested in this, I don't know, people that have thought about this in the last 5 years kind of thing, and see what they have in store for us. So maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow, and just keep fleshing this out, only adding stuff to it that I really like, that I can see myself using, and then I'll publish it and get famous for being a CSS influencer. That's the plan. Thanks for hanging out. See you tomorrow for sure. Probably about the same time, I would think.